everyone. My name is Deborah Ledford, and welcome to Authors on the Air Global Network. This is my first episode as a guest host, and I am really pleased to present you with T.G. Brown, introduce you to new viewers and new readers. T.G., say hello.
Hello, everybody.
This is great. So this is my first episode, and my task is to interview Native American authors and Indigenous authors, and even authors who write about Indigenous characters. So this is a great. I'm so pleased and honored that Pam Stack has invited me to be a guest host, and Jim Litwell, thank you as well, and everyone else in the network who has helped me set this up. I really, really appreciate it. So we're going to speak with TG here. And you have two books out. And tell us a little bit about Jericho Burning. Now, this is your first book in your series, right? I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. This is the second book. This is the first book.
Yeah.
Tribal Honor.
Yep.
So it's a two-book series so far. And your lead character is Tribal Officer Warren Lawson. So can you give us just a little overview of the series itself and the character?
Yeah, so it's about Tribal Police Officer Warren Lawson. He works on the fictional reservation of Jericho Nation, which is in Oregon. The series primarily follows him and his cases that he's investigating, as well as his own personal struggles. So he's a very complex character. He has a lot going on inside of him. I think the job has kind of changed him throughout the years, and so he is trying to maintain that level of integrity while he's investigating these cases, and that's kind of where the story starts. And I have plans in the future to see where it takes him as far as that road of integrity goes. So, yeah.
And why did you decide? So you are an actual tribal officer, corporal, and a new detective for the force, right? What made you decide to make your setting fictional? Nick Medina did that for his Sisters of the Lost Nation as well, and it preserves the anonymity of actual places and particular people of a particular tribe. But did you find that freeing for you as well? Was that your intent?
Yeah, it was. I'm still working on the police force, so I'm still actively in service, so to speak. So I wanted to protect any stories that could be anywhere close to the truth. So I think setting it on a fictional location was better, because I write a lot from my emotions and my heart, and whatever I experience is kind of like a part of my research, so to speak. So I wanted to keep it fictional, and I didn't want people to believe that these things really did happen, because the way I do write, it does come off like it very realistic and very gritty. And so I didn't want people to read my story and then think that it happened in the reservation that I actually work at, because there's some similarities of the location and the overall geography of Jericho Nation. So that was what I wanted to do, and I wanted to protect anything that was familiar to real life people as well. So I wanted to change all of that to make it 100% fiction.
Right. That's pretty smart. Because you do have to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Jericho Burning is the second book from the series. And as Tribal Honor, the debut, did you find any differences on the approach you took to writing the second book?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The first book I wrote was totally emotion. Like, it was just like no outline, and I just wrote from the heart, and it worked out for me. There was a lot of redos before the final draft came out, but Jericho Burning, I started to do that, and I think I was like 70 pages in. And I remember thinking, where am I going? Like, what am I doing here? Like, I was getting into this area of like, I don't know where I'm going. So I went back, outlined it, and really planned out my story step for step to organize my thoughts a lot more. And it was a lot more smooth this time around. So I definitely learned that I can't always just write by the seat of my pants. I need to like actually plan this out, you know. And so that's what I did. And I was like, man, I should have done this from the beginning. You know, it worked out with Tribal Honor. You know, I got lucky with in that regard, I think, because I think when I wrote Tribal Honor, that was sort of based on some real cases. I definitely meshed together some real stuff that I experienced. Jericho Burning was more fictional though. And so when I tried to do the same thing with Jericho Burning, it didn't work out because I couldn't just go, well, it wouldn't work out that way because it worked out like this in real life, you know? So when I wrote out Jericho Burning, I really had to plan out, you know, map ahead. So yeah, it was very different, two very different approaches. And, but yeah, so that's what I learned writing two of them.
Mm-hmm. And they're both thrillers. I mean, they're traditional thrillers in that, you know, we know who the bad guy is. You know, we know who the antagonist is, and it's you know, it's up to you know, it's up to Warren Lawson and his crew to you know, find out who it is, and of course you know, the necessary evidence to put the guy away.
Yeah.
And I mean, but you also deal with real life instances. I mean, you're talking about, you know, things that go on, you know, heavily on reservations all across the United States and you know, everywhere, because it is kind of a secluded situation as far as tribal people go. Did you are you particularly close with your tribe or your clan? The reservation has five actual tribes, right, and more bands within the boundary of your reservation, right? You wanna
Right.
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm Chinook, Rogue River, and Umpqua. That's the tribes I'm a part of. You know, I grew up into it. When I grew up, you know, I was just always around it. So it was the only way of life I understood. You know, going to the powwow, going, you know, all those things. That was just stuff that I did, and I didn't realize how unique it was until later on in life. Because when I just grew up with it and doing that day in and day out, you know, it was just kind of like, oh, that's just the way of life, you know. And then you talk to your other friends that are not part of the reservation or part of the tribe, and they're like, oh, that's super cool and unique. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, that's just what we do, you know. You know,
Right.
so yeah, so I wouldn't say I'm super integrated, but I am in a way, if that makes sense. I am, but I'm not. You
Yeah,
know,
sure.
you know, I grew up with it, and then after I grew up, I kind of went out and experienced other things as well, and wanted to learn about other cultures. And you know, I am a man of two cultures. You know, I'm Native American and Irish, so I like to go on both. And I think that you know, you don't have to be one or the other. I like to bring together culture. You know, and
Right,
so that's what
right.
I've kind of set out to do in that regard.
Right. And I mean, it's so few are full-blooded,
Yeah.
you know, native. And so and so few even still live on the reservation. So, you know, as far as industry is concerned, the opportunities aren't necessarily there. I mean, this particular series, first one takes place on the Taos Pueblo reservation.
Yeah.
But the only industry there is tourism, you know, or being an artisan. And so, you know, much of, especially the younger generation, they're living in Santa Fe or Albuquerque because there really is no work actually on the reservation,
Yeah.
unless you're involved in tourism or an artist. So
Yeah.
is that at all as far as your region and as well?
Similarly, I mean, a lot of what we get is our casinos are big. That's the big highlight.
Oh,
That's
right,
where a lot of our funding comes from. You
right.
know, you know, but there's not a ton of jobs either. It's similar. I mean, there's logging, there's a lot of jobs like that, and then our tribe's very fortunate where they are relatively wealthy, and you know, they do offer a lot of jobs at the casino and at our medical
Right.
clinic and all kinds of things like that. And you know, for me, you know, after I grew up and I went and experienced other cultures, I felt a need to go back to that,
Mm,
and I felt like protecting people of that community was something that I needed to do. It was like almost like a primal thing within me. I couldn't explain it in the moment, but now that I've grown up and thought it out, that was like what I wanted to do. And so I applied to be on their tribal police department and got
mhm.
hired, thankfully. and haven't looked back since. People thought I would transfer out, but I fell in love with it all over again, and so I now I don't see myself going anywhere else. So
and kudos to you, because that is so important to to get back to the community.
Yeah, it's a great community out there. Like there's just a lot of good people, and the police department there, we do a lot of community policing, so we know everybody. Everyone knows who we are. It's a first name basis. It's not officer. It's like, hey, what's up? How you doing? No, first name. And we don't take offense to that, because we know that means they're comfortable with us, and it's very unique. Again, going back to cultures and stuff, other agencies, county agencies that come in and see that, they're like, this is totally different than what we experience in a city or out in the more rural areas. But that's just kind of how we operate. And again, that was something that I thought was just normal, but now I look back, I'm like, no, it's
really
unique.
not.
Yeah, it's really not. It's a very unique and special thing that I treasure, and I do. So,
and then and in Tribal Honor, we start out learning about learning about Warren Lawson and his people, and it's very much like that. It's everybody knows each other. Everybody knows their business. We're talking. I think it's 1,100 acres. It's tiny for a reservation of so many different cultures and clans. I was shocked when I heard that, or I researched that. And we'll go about a little bit in a minute, talking about the research that has been done as far as you and I our connection. But so yeah, Warren knows everybody, and everybody knows Warren. And he's beyond a peacekeeper, though, right? I mean, he's kind of he's kind of the bond that keeps people calm, right? So that wasn't, I kind of get the feeling in the way you hold yourself and your bearing and being, is that it's not too much of a stretch for you to have come up with this character. But and I guess there's a little bit of us in all of our characters. But how did you make the decision really to make him kind of the gatekeeper of the community between serving and the people?
I've always been fascinated with characters like that. I guess there's a lot of characters throughout our time that are like that are hold the peace. They hold the line between chaos and peace, and I find them even more fascinating when they have their own internal chaos line that they're trying to manage as well. And so picking out a character like that, I wanted him to be what he strived to be. I guess I wanted a tribal police officer to be somebody that everybody looked at and looked up on. No matter where you were in the world, you could read about this character and be like, man, this is a character I want to be like. And there's not a ton of characters like that in our literature or movies or TV shows. And so I thought it was unique. I thought it was special, and I wanted to create that for other tribal members that are growing up, kids that grow up and read these stories maybe one day, and they see this young man that grew up of two cultures, but he is doing right by everyone, and or at least trying to. He's not perfect, but and I found that inspiring, and I found that interesting, because even though he's trying to do the right thing, sometimes we're human and we make mistakes, and we gotta fix that, and he does make his fair share of mistakes while he's trying to do good. And so, yeah, I think that was just kind of the driving force behind him. I wanted him to be inspiring to people and also relatable at the same time. So having that connection with the community is very relatable, and I wanted him to be connected with his people. And I actually have plans further on in the books, in the series, where he is very more integrated in the culture, and he's kind of more, because he's a little reserved. When we meet Warren, he's not exactly embracing one culture or the other, and I want to have a story that he embraces both of them and realizes that's what makes it who he is.
And we don't even really know for certain that he is Native. Until a bit later in book 1. Which I thought was a really, really fascinating way of showing the character. I mean, literally, that it doesn't matter necessarily that he's Native. He is first and foremost, when he's on the job, representing peace and calm on this particular plot of land. So I thought that was really, I thought that was bold, because a lot of authors, it's important, even for me, being part Eastern Band Cherokee, it's like I'm making it very clear this is that Ava Lightning Dance Durant is a in book 2 a tribal cop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So I
I
really,
like that. Yeah. I like
yeah,
that approach just as much. I just,
yeah,
like I said, it's your first book, I'm a brand
yeah,
new author. I'm like, how do I, have something different, I guess, is kind of the ideas I'm not very formulaic with my stories. I want to be,
mhm,
there's some things that I go with that are formulaic, I guess, but I think a lot of what I do is I try to bring something new to the genre, new, and
right.
that was part of it too. That was definitely well thought. And yeah, I think you're the first person that actually mentioned that to me. And I love that you did, because
Oh,
that
good.
was something that I did on purpose. I wanted
Yeah,
people to
good.
see who was, what was in his heart, who he was as a human being before, also like, hey, he is tribal. He is a part of his people, even though these are his people, this is where he comes from. I wanted
Yeah.
people to really get to know him. And, it was, like I said, it was bold. Actually, my editors told me, they were like, you might not want to do that. And I was like, nope, I want to try it. I'm going
Oh,
to
I
try it. And
loved
so,
it. I loved it.
yeah,
Yeah,
luckily it worked out, but yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. I think it was the perfect move. And also we don't know that it's a fictitious reservation either. So
Yeah.
it's so you're going truly with storytelling. Um, and natives are known storytellers. That's I grew up listening to stories from my grandfather, growing up on in the hills of western North Carolina. And it's
Yeah.
inherent in our indigenous blood. It just is. And can you maybe share a memory of your favorite storyteller in your life? Maybe a grandparent, an auntie, or
I was
whatever.
actually just about to say, I remember my grandpa at family reunions telling stories to me, and there's all kinds of people. My dad, my mom. I think I couldn't pick a singular one, just because there's so many different things that make them have a special place in my heart.
Mhm.
And Yeah, we talked about this when we met, and I think storytelling is such a primal thing within all of us, and I think
Right.
that embracing it is the best way to live, because that's just part of our people. I think that's part of Native American culture, is that we've grown
Yep.
up around the campfire telling stories for
Yep.
ages and ages and ages, and I think you and I and other Native American authors, we're carrying that torch now, and so
Right.
it's something I take very seriously. I take that to heart, and I want
Mhm.
to make them proud. I want to make our ancestors proud. I really do. And so,
Nice.
um,
Very nice.
yeah,
Yeah, and nowadays, I sound 100 years old as I stroke my silver beard. We have the opportunity to offer them in print, where it's a legacy that we're able to pass on,
yes,
instead of the told stories that are then we embellish a lot and so forth and so on.
right, right, right.
But yeah, but that there's the tendency for that. But I mean, your books are going to live on and live on and live on, and they're a lot of fun, and they're deep and they're dark. And so Jericho Burning, the second book, you get more into the psychological aspects of
Yeah.
your antagonist. Um, and did you do research? Did you kind of take it from, way back here, or did you really internalize and get into this guy's head? What did you do to prepare to actually put this guy in print?
Yeah. So, like I said, I think I cheat a little bit in the research department just because of what I do for a profession as well, being a police officer. But there was some research as far as the psychological side. My wife is a therapist, so she is very smart when it comes to the human psyche. She knows a lot about that kind of stuff. So I actually kind of bounced ideas off her head as I was writing it, and
Mhm.
she's a great partner, and she's right there with me, and I'm asking her, hey, what do you think of this, or what do you think of that, and she's it tells me what she would think a person in that situation would act. I use that a lot with the villain of Jericho Burning. A lot was, I try to write, like you said, they're very, they very much a thriller. You know who the bad guy
Right.
is, but I still want the bad guy to be interesting. Even if
Yeah.
you hate him, I want people to be intrigued in him. And I think somebody like Carl Jameson in Jericho Burning, he's not a great individual. He's doing some bad things, but if I can make him interesting. And I think
Yeah.
learning how he spins, how that makes that mind work is what is very intriguing to me. And that's why I wrote that down. And so as far as Warren, it was a mixture of my own experiences and how I would experience that, and what I would think if that happened, and also with my wife's expertise on the matter too. So I kind of blended the two, and that's what came out. And yeah, that I was very happy with that, how that came out.
Yeah, it's a great dichotomy of light and dark, even
Yeah.
though there is dark, even though Warren is dealing with darkness for sure.
Yeah.
After what happens in the end of book one, you're gonna have to read that one first. But yeah, so it's fascinating, and I mean, I write psychological suspense thrillers too, so it's that part to me is the fun of it, you know.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that aspect too. It just adds another layer, you know, and that's
Right.
what you're hoping for, right? You want to make
Right.
each page as interesting as you can, and so that was another aspect
Right.
I was going to go with, and fit in like a good puzzle piece.
Yeah, and you and I met last year. Maybe it was this year. Oh my gosh, this year has been like crazy. I think it was earlier this year.
Yeah.
And it was just out of the blue. I chose because I wanted to involved in the new series that I'm writing, something about wineries and water rights. And then I thought, well, I don't want California grapes, so then there was Oregon. It's like, oh, let's try that. And then you know, the pieces started falling together where Grand Ronde was the reservation I want to feature because there were more tribes. And then I contacted the tribal police department, and then your sergeant, I think, connected me with you. And then, you know, what, 5 months later, I don't know, we got together and we had a great meeting, and you showed me around. You were so great. Set me straight on a few things that I had hoped to be able to do. Because mine actually does take place on the Grand Ronde. But and then I don't know, a little bit later, Pam Stack, our big boss with Authors on the Air Global Network, sends me you know, an email. Hey, I really think that this should be your first guest, and here you are. So it was the universe putting us together. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, everybody. And I'm so pleased for you, and I wish you all the very, very best. We're going to wrap it up here. You want to tell us where we can find you, and do you have any other appearances coming up?
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to say thank you, Deb. I hope you know that I look up to you now as a mentor in this writing journey I've been on, and I really appreciate how warm and welcoming you've been to me. I'm so brand new to all this, you know, and you've just been so kind. So I just want to say thank you. And anyway, as far as where you can find me, I'm on Instagram, TG Brown Books, and then I am on Facebook, just TG Brown. I have an appearance coming up for the International Book Awards for Reader's Favorite. I'll be down in Miami on November 23rd of this year. So if any of you guys are down there, feel free to come say hi. I'd love to talk to people that have read the story, and you know, it's that's part of the fun, is building the community around all these stories as well. So yeah,
absolutely. All right. Okay. Here we go. That's going to be a wrap on episode 1, Jericho Burning, Tribal Honor. TG Brown, thank you so much. You were great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time. Okay.